understanding of at least what this text is in the midst of. Why don't you talk to the person next to you? Chapters 12 and chapters 14. The love chapter is in the midst of an ongoing larger discussion on spiritual gifts. That is part of the literary context. What relationship that may have yet to the historical context remains to be seen, correct? But at least we know that the love chapter is in the midst of a context on spiritual gifts. In fact, let's actually look at the words on either end. You can actually see them in the opening verses of chapter 12 and 14. Will someone read 12:1? Just the first four words.
Now concerning spiritual gifts.
Great. Now somebody take chapter 14 and read the first part through the second comma.
Pursue love and earnestly desire the spiritual gifts.
Now this is a fascinating thing. These words are identical in the original language. From the word pneumatikos, you think of pneuma or breath, spiritual persons. Now interestingly, it's identical in 12:1 and 14:1. Now that might be a little surprise because our first comment put this discussion in the midst of something called spiritual gifts, which chapter 12 and 14 do speak of, don't they? But it's a different word. Do you see the other word, the charismatica word? Do you see that word in chapter 12 anywhere? Find it and tell the guy next to you where you see it. Did you find it? Verse 4, thank you. Now there are a variety of gifts. Now there's a slight distinction there. It doesn't exactly mirror in the original what you found in 12:1 or 14:1. This is the word that we commonly think of when we think of particular manifestations of the Spirit to the Christian, of which we all get at least one somehow that is used for the edification and well-being of the church. A gift, spiritual gift. In fact, it's used more than merely verse 4. Look toward the back end of chapter 10. Did anybody find it there as well? 28 through 30?
And God has appointed in the church first apostles, second prophets, third teachers and miracles, gifts of healing, helping, administrating, and various kinds of tongues. Do all possess gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret?
So what's interesting here is things like tongues and even prophecy is mentioned here are particular manifestations, particular gifts. So what have we learned about what chapter 13 is in the midst of? Not merely that it sits in the midst of something on spiritual gifts, that is particular manifestations like tongues or prophecy, but that Paul has subsumed that discussion into a larger discussion on just what it is to be a spiritual person or mature. In fact, the previous word, pneumatikon, appears 15 times in 1 Corinthians. And I just want you to see at the back end of our context, see if you can find that toward the back end of chapter 14, because that's the word then that bookends the entire literary context. When you find it, tell the guy next to you. All right, where do you see it? Somebody.
37.
Great, 37. Somebody read it out loud.
If anyone thinks that he is a prophet or spiritual, he should acknowledge that the things I'm writing to you are new.
All right, now he's brought this term from 12:1 to 14:1 to 14:37. I mean, there's the largest, that's what's anchoring my love chapter. A discussion on what it is to be a spiritual person. Think of it as someone who's mature, spiritual maturity. The term is used in kind of a really full-orbed, healthy way, not merely of persons in the letter. I mean, just take a look back at 9, I think it's 9:11. You'll find the same term. Can somebody read that for us?
We have some spiritual things among you. It's too much if we read material things.
All right, so the material world is just the world of physicality, the world of external things. It's being contrasted now with this same word that has something to do with some kind of internal well-being and the sowing of a seed that grows to fruition and maturity. You'll find the same term used in chapter 10, verses 3 and 4. Somebody read those for us.
And all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink. They drank the spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Christ.
All right, so this element of, wow, I mean, if you got a hold of something that was spiritual, it had a completeness to it. It had a full sustenance to it. In fact, it's almost equated with the things that come to you from Christ. All right? Now, we've just done a little bit of legwork on chapter 12 and 14, and we're not ready to preach yet, but I at least know that my chapters contextually within a literary unit where the presenting issue in Corinth was things like gifts on the order of tongues or prophecy. That was the presenting issue. But the underlying umbrella under which Paul wants to talk about it is what it means to be a spiritually mature person. It's a conversation within a conversation. Now, the question is, were the Corinthians concerned with the particular conversation on gifts, or were they concerned with the larger conversation on what it is to be spiritual? I don't know yet, but my mind is beginning to work. And so I want to come back to 12:1, because Paul is addressing something. Somebody read the first 4 words again of 12:1.